These are arguably the 4 best gaming smartphones of the year so far, but you can't game or even do day-to-day tasks if your phone runs out of juice too quickly. This is my real-life battery drain test of the Asus ROG Phone 3, Lenovo Legion Phone Pro, Black Shark 3 Pro, and RedMagic 5S. Biggest battery size all the way on the left being the ROG, and the smallest battery size being all the way on the right, the RedMagic 5S, with the 2 in between, the Lenovo and the Black Shark with the same capacity. I have updated all smartphones to their latest available software or rocking Android 10. We're going to be using the ROG Phone 3 at 144Hz. There is a 160Hz option, but that is actually not available out the box. You have to do a bit of a workaround in order to get there. The 144Hz is the stable option. The 160 is not so stable, so we're going to leave it on 144 and match that to the 144 on the Legion phone and the RedMagic 5S. While the Black Shark 3 Pro is limited to 90Hz, it does indeed have the biggest panel size over here, with the smallest panel being on the ROG Phone 3. The max resolution of the ROG Phone, Legion Phone, and RedMagic devices are all capped at 1080p, while the Black Shark 3 Pro is one of the few gaming phones around that can go all the way up to QHD+, and we're going to leave it on that due to a recent poll on my channel. I'm extremely excited to get this video underway and share the results with you guys today. This is TechNick, and without further ado, let's go. We're going to start here by making sure that all phones are capped off at 100% currently in their charger that came paired in the box. Now we're going to be using a heat gun throughout the test at an emissivity level of 0.50 because this is the most accurate when it comes to testing out electronic devices. We're testing out the temps now, and after each app that we run, after every 30-minute interval, we will then update that as we go along. So far, the ROG phone is the coolest over here, and the Lenovo Legion Phone Pro is the hottest. So kickstarting things off over here using my OnePlus 8 Pro as the timer on the right-hand side, we're going to start scrolling through Chrome. If you guys are interested in more specifications of the devices, we have the brandings at the bottom, and below that we have some details based on those specific phones. We have the time interval at the top right hand corner, and the percentage that you see above each phone is only in relation to that time interval and not real time. After just 31 minutes, 99% on the ROG phone, matching that of the Lenovo, 97% the next down is the Black Shark, and 93% is indeed the RedMagic 5S, which is indeed falling behind a bit over here compared to the rest. And the RedMagic is indeed the hottest phone at the moment, with the ROG phone being the coolest phone. Remember that the RedMagic does indeed have an active air cooler inside it. It has an actual fan inside its device, but that fan is only used when you are gaming. After 1 hour, 95% on the ROG phone, just behind that the Lenovo with 94%, 2% behind that the Black Shark, and 86% on the RedMagic 5S. As I said earlier, it really is starting to drag behind a bit. We are now currently using Shazam, we're using auto mode within the app, and we're also using screen recording to get to that 1 hour and 30-minute mark, with the ROG phone still being the coolest and the RedMagic device still being the hottest, but it does change as we go throughout the test. Hitting the 1 hour and 32-minute mark time interval, 90% on the ROG phone still leading the pack over here. Just behind that, 3% behind that, the Lenovo Legion with a 1000 mAh smaller battery than the ROG, so it's pretty impressive here. 85% on the Black Shark, and a whopping 78% right at the bottom, the RedMagic 5S, similar to its predecessor, the RedMagic 5G, but it does indeed have the smallest battery of the bunch here with 4500 mAh, so you must keep that in mind while we go throughout the test. Hitting the 2 hour interval, 86 on the ROG, now 4% below that, the Lenovo with 82%, just 1% behind that. Now climbing the ranks is the Black Shark 3 Pro, and dropping the quickest here is indeed the RedMagic with the 73%. We also have the RedMagic still at the hottest, and the ROG phone still at the coolest over here with that nice little chamber at the back there, though we do have a silver cooling plating on the RedMagic 5S. Like I said earlier, these things only really work when you are indeed gaming, and this is more of a real life drain test. 82% on the ROG after 2 hours and 30 minutes, 77 on the Lenovo, 76 on the Black Shark, still 8% behind there, and 67 on the RedMagic 5S, now 10% lower than the Lenovo Legion Phone Pro. But remember, it does have a 500 mAh smaller battery than the Lenovo, and it has a 1500 mAh battery smaller than the ROG Phone 3. I have set this test up in order of the biggest battery to the smallest from left to right, and after 3 hours we have 79% on the ROG, 73% on the Lenovo, 72% on the Black Shark, still a percent behind, and 62% on the RedMagic 5S. Now 11% behind the Lenovo. The temperatures have shifted a bit here, with the coolest still being the ROG, but now the hottest phone is indeed the Lenovo Legion Phone Pro, with the RedMagic 5S second to that. We're closing in on that 3 hour 30-minute gap after we pass my YouTube videos. Make sure you check them out after this. 76% on the ROG phone after 3 hours and 30 minutes, 68 on the Lenovo, still a percent behind, 67% on the Black Shark, and 58% on the RedMagic 5S. If you're enjoying this video so far, a sub to the channel would really be appreciated. We're closing in on that 4 hour gap after running a 4K video loop using 25 frames per second. Bear that in mind, using an app called VLC. Hitting that 4 hour mark, we are seeing percentages of 72 on the ROG, 64 on the Lenovo, still a percent behind the Black Shark with 63, and 52, almost reaching that midpoint on the RedMagic 5S. Now we're going to be testing out the selfie video recording on all devices. The ROG phone can do it at 1080p 60 FPS, but the others are capped at 30, so we've dropped the ROG to 30 FPS as well to match those, so we can get to that 4 hour 30-minute mark and see how things go in a more accurate manner. Hitting the 4 hour 30-minute mark, we have 66% on the ROG, 54 on the Lenovo. Now a percent ahead of that is indeed the Black Shark with 55%. The only one below 50 is 44% on the RedMagic 5S. The hottest is still the Lenovo Legion Phone Pro. Now we're recording back video. The only reason we're doing 4K 30 is because the Lenovo is capped at 30 FPS when using a 4K mode over here. The other devices can do it at 60, but I've brought them down to 30 to keep things even. 58% on the ROG after 5 hours, 39 on the Lenovo, now dropping quickly compared to the Black Sharks, 43%, and 10% below the Black Shark is 33% on the RedMagic 5S after that 5 hour interval. Now we're running Antutu benchmark over here, and I don't do benchmarks just to speed the strain test up. I do it so that we can simulate high, heavy, draining, and performing games such as PUBG Mobile and Call of Duty Mobile. And after 5 hours and 30 minutes, we got 49% on the ROG phone, just below the 50% mark now, 25% on the Legion Phone Pro, which is 5% behind the 30% on the Black Shark 3 Pro, and a crazy 20% on the RedMagic 5S after 5 hours and 30 minutes. As I was saying earlier, we're simulating the benchmarks to kind of simulate what we would do in terms of high performing games. So you're going to get roughly around an hour or two of heavy hitting games, maybe an hour of decent games, and maybe 4 or 5 hours of casual use, as you'll see a bit later. After 6 hours, we have 41% on the ROG, which is streaks ahead of all other devices over here. The next up is 16% on the Black Shark, 8% on the Lenovo, and just 4% on the RedMagic 5S. The hottest phone I've ever seen, 68.7 degrees Celsius on the Lenovo, with the ROG phone still being the coolest. And after 6 hours and 18 minutes, the RedMagic 5S caps out. I still regard 6 hours as incredible screen on time for any device, let alone a gaming device over here. And we're clocking out at 46 degrees Celsius over here with an average 11.91 milliamp hours per minute. So we'll compare that to other phones that start dropping later on. After 6 hours and 30 minutes, 35% on the ROG, just 2% left of juice on the Lenovo, and we still have 10% on the Black Shark. Things have really turned around between the Black Shark and the Lenovo compared to earlier on in the test. The Lenovo did pop up saying that there is an overheating issue, but I did check just before it died. It was sitting on 1%, so maybe we would have gotten an extra minute over there. So it got too hot, it decided to turn off. Very strange there, but it did indeed die after 6 hours and 35 minutes with a worse milliamp hour per minute compared to the RedMagic with 12.66, and it was a little bit cooler though compared to the RedMagic when clocking out due to the task it was currently busy with. So it's interesting to see that after 7 hours we have 31% on the ROG Phone 3 as opposed to 4% on a 1000 milliamp hour smaller battery on the Black Shark 3 Pro, 4% on the Black Shark, but it is still hanging in there after 7 hours, which is absolutely great considering the massive size of the screen and it using a QHD Plus panel, the only panel over here using QHD Plus and 90 Hz refresh rate. After 7 hours and 19 minutes, the Black Shark says goodbye, which isn't terrible, much better than the other smartphones that we see around here. Same size battery as the Lenovo and almost an hour more battery juice with a bigger screen and a higher resolution panel. It now has the best milliamp hours per minute, with the second best being the RedMagic, and after 7 hours and 30 minutes, the ROG Phone 3 is still going with 20%. Considering those phones that have already died, the Black Shark BlackShark 3 Pro was indeed the coolest phone of the bunch over there. Let's see what happens with the ROG phone when it does indeed die. We're using a UFO test vertical scrolling on Google Chrome right now on the ROG, back to where we started at the start of the test, and after 8 hours we're sitting on 12%, which is absolutely incredibly great. But remember, we're using a 6000 mAh battery in the ROG Phone 3, so it is expected to do so well, and it also has the smallest screen of the bunch. Back to Shazam and Spotify over here using screen recording, and we're closing in on that 8 hour and 30 minute interval. Let's see if it can make it past 9 in the territory of the iPhone 11 Pro Max and the Redmi K30 Pro Zoom Edition. 3% after 8 hours and 30 minutes, ending off with YouTube over here to run through a bunch of videos, and it caps out at 8 hours and 37 minutes, which is absolutely phenomenal battery life for a 5000 mAh battery, but not necessarily the best for a 6000 mAh battery. It is arguably the best phone in terms of battery life when it comes to gaming using a 144Hz panel. I'm really impressed with that, but the BlackShark was using a QHD Plus panel and a 90Hz refresh rate at the same time. Fourth place, the RedMagic 5S with 6 hours and 18 minutes. Not quite as good as its predecessor, the 5G, but still fantastic battery life for a 4500 mAh battery. Third place, the Lenovo Legion Phone Pro, a much bigger battery than the RedMagic and only a few minutes extra to spare at 6 hours and 35 minutes. Same battery size as the Lenovo, almost an extra hour of juice. The BlackShark 3 Pro here with 7 hours and 19 minutes. Absolutely great for what this phone is packing. And in first place, getting the crown here, is indeed the Asus ROG Phone 3 with a whopping 8 hours and 37 minutes, but that's definitely thanks to that massive battery. Comparing it to all other devices that I have tested in the exact same battery drain test, the ROG phone places third, which is absolutely phenomenal, but it is beat by the iPhone 11 Pro Max and Redmi K30 Pro Zoom Edition. Bear in mind, both of those phones do indeed have 60Hz panels. Those are their maxes. However, those devices also have much smaller batteries. The RedMagic 5S places dead last over there with its 144Hz display, just a couple minutes worse than the RedMagic 5G. This should improve with future software updates. The Legion Phone Pro just above that, and the BlackShark, which is right in between the dirt cheap iQOO Neo 3 and the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 Ultra. Now, if they all had the ginormous battery of the ROG Phone 3, first place would then be awarded to the BlackShark 3 Pro if it had 1000 mAh more. Third place would then be awarded to the RedMagic 5S due to its incredible milliamp hours per minute reading that we got throughout the test. Last place would then become the Lenovo Legion Phone Pro due to its terrible milliamp hour per minute reading. I hope that you guys enjoyed watching this video as much as I did making it. This is TechNick, and I'll see you in the next one.